Tell me the number. What have we raised?
Hey man, how's it going?
I'm good.
7.5 million.
7.5. Let's go. Are you kidding me? Tom, do an intro for the show. I've been excited for this for a while. I'm so happy.
No, appreciate it. Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Tom. I am a data scientist by background, but more recently, I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Block.
Tell me about Block. Tell me what it does. Tell me why it's so important today.
Yeah, for sure. So, in essence, we help product teams simulate changes before they go live. So the big thing for us is how do we make it easier for product teams to go through the process of designing new products, and iterating on experiments before they actually get the engineering team involved. So the big thing for us is we're able to simulate how your customers are likely to behave to a product change before that product change goes live. And we can do it without ever writing a line of code. So the big thing for us is instead of running 2 experiments or 1 experiment that takes 4 to 6 weeks on average, we're able to run experiments, simulated experiments that can give you some insight into how your customers are likely to behave literally in the space of a couple of hours.
Versus a week or 2 week time frame or a monthly time
Four to
frame.
six weeks, yeah.
Wow. So you're constantly speeding up that
Yeah,
product iteration in a way that no one else ever could.
yeah, 100%.
Incredible. Where did this idea come from?
To be honest, it was based on some work that I was doing before. So I was working with a company that was trying to predict whether their customers were going to convert from free to paid. And going on that journey with them helped me understand that a lot of companies aren't particularly good at predicting how their customers are going to behave. But more importantly, they're not necessarily targeting the right customer, and often they're not running the right experiments. So most companies will optimize for short-term benefit as opposed to long-term gain. And what normally happens is they run a whole bunch of experiments to increase the top of funnel or to increase the number of conversions they're getting. And essentially what's actually happening is in the long term, they're shooting themselves in the foot. So that combined with some of the work that I was doing in the defense world before, where I was largely predicting human behavior, is kind of where it came to life to some degree. Myself and my co-founder Olivia spent a lot of time interviewing product teams and understanding some of the core problems that they had, and the same thing just kept coming back. It was too many wasted experiments, 9 and 10 experiments failing. It's taking too long to run experiments. We don't know which experiments to run. So the big thing for us was, well, how do we improve that? But more importantly, just thinking a little bit about where the world is going. I think the way in which we build products is going to change. I mean, Lovable, Bolt, etc., have done a really good job at 10xing the amount we're shipping, but actually that's meant that there are some significant vulnerabilities in code these days. So there's the kind of first big thing that I think we can build on. And I think the second thing is like the way in which humans interact with products is going to radically change. You've seen with Apple and glass in the sense of we're being trained to start using, you kind of like getting used to glasses, for example. So I'm sure Apple will be releasing the glasses next year. And if we're going to move towards a world where it's multimodal interfaces with lots of different UI and lots of different modes for actually interacting with products, knowing what to generate for who and when is going to become significantly more difficult. And that's the kind of core problem that we're trying to solve.
And so the way that I'm hearing this is like it's the foundations of hyper personalization.
Yeah.
And like there was always a disconnect between how do we personalize screens? How do we personalize an experience? And everyone thought the web browser was going to be that and Google would do it, but they couldn't get access to the data because of GDPR. This is sort of flipping it to say, well, we'll let you run experiments at a hyper scale in a way you could never before do.
Yeah.
And now with the data that is freely accessible and the way that people are sharing it, you can customize an experience. You can have an experience that is different from one person to another.
Exactly.
Incredible. I mean, what is it like building a team out today for a product like that? Because it's a highly complex product. You're not just building a consumer application. You're building something that's incredibly technical. The team is stacked from what I've seen. I mean, we had a conversation offline. There's a bunch of PhDs there. And a lot of the work are from scientists with data science backgrounds. Like, how do you think about hiring today for a team like that?
So we are largely hiring engineers at this stage. So yeah, mostly research engineers or engineers, a few data scientists. We've got a former unicorn founder that joined us full time. We've got PhDs, postdocs from Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, people that have worked quite closely on Voyager, which is basically a reinforcement learning experiment that was done on agents. So the whole premise was basically, can we get Minecraft to, can we build an agent that can basically work within Minecraft.
I love
And
it.
pretty successfully. But the big problem, right, was, Minecraft is great during the day, you're mining away, and then at night the zombies come along and kill you.
Uh-huh.
So you're getting pretty good at building reinforcement learning to essentially, like, as soon as it gets to nighttime, the agent will create a sword and then be able to fight the zombies off. So working with someone that's worked quite closely with that. Honestly, I think at this stage, mostly research, engineering, that's kind of the core focus. Behavioral science as well, obviously, given that like we're digging deep into like human cognition and trying to understand why we do the things that we do. So we're a team of just over 10 people now, or 11 people now. Yeah, the core focus has been engineering. We'll probably make our first non-technical hire in the next couple of months.
How are you thinking about what the interface looks like for using this? Does it plug into a an engineer's journey of like how they engineer, or does it sit as something separate?
Yeah, it sits as something separate. So we're actually, the daily user is in product, and often it's a product designer who will have a whole bunch
Oh,
of
okay.
thinking about running. There are two ways in which you can work with us. You can work with us by uploading URL, and that can be like your dev environment, or it can be, kind of a URL of a site, whatever. Or you can upload a Figma design. And the Figma design means that you don't have to go through the process of actually coding anything. So you can design something in Figma, chuck in the URL, and then we can use our computer using agents to actually go and complete the task that you want them to complete. And in essence, what you should get is the output and essentially how your customers are likely to behave. So we're able to do all of that before it gets to the engineers. Now, once you've kind of iterated on an experiment a whole bunch of times, so like the output is, you'll play with the experiment, you'll get the output, you'll then kind of iterate and run the experiment again. Once you're ready and you're ready to kind of push it live, because we're not saying let's replace A/B testing altogether, we're just saying like let's experiment better and 10x the number of experiments that we're running. Once you're ready to run something live, you then obviously will build it in dev. And just before it goes into prod, what we will probably do is run the experiment again. And what we're looking for there is any vulnerabilities in the code. And that's really kind of something that we've been pretty good at finding. So one of our customers recently, they had like they had a conversion of like 30% on a particular page. And they were like, why is conversion so low? It looks fine. It should be higher than that. And we identified obviously a kind of vulnerability in the code from that side of things. And when we uncovered that and fixed that, immediate increase in conversion of 15%. So, massive, like worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for that business. And that was because we were able to like simulate right before they went live with the change that they made and see whether it fixed the problem or not.
Interesting. What's it like building in the Valley today? Like, I'm a big fan of following you and your journey. Like, we've had the pleasure of like meeting in person a couple of times, and you've been on the show. You're a friend of the show. What's it like being back? What's it like being in build mode?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. If you're building an AI, there's no better place to be right now. Honestly, I think, there are a few alphas that you can benefit from being in San Francisco that you don't get anywhere else in the world, and one of them is speed. There are lots of different types of people here, but fundamentally, the speed at which everyone is moving is consistent. Regardless of whether you're hustling away into the long hours of the night or whether you're, kind of like being a little bit more strategic with your time. At the end of the day, everyone in the Valley is moving 15 times faster than anywhere else in the world.
Are you still getting the dinners in as well?
I actually haven't been.
Tom, you're killing me.
I haven't done any in a long while. We're doing an office warming tomorrow, and that will be the first bringing people together in a long while. So now that we're past the raise, it's something that I'm going to spend a little bit more time doing. But yeah, been spending a little bit more time on building out the Sigma community and just kind of like laying the foundations so that we can start getting some more community events together.
Tell me about the Sigma community out there. Like, how are you thinking about building that out? Are you going to use the same model that they got over here, or is it slightly different?
I think it's slightly different. I think just like given the kind of caliber of people and the expectations that the existing fellows have over here, it will have to be slightly different. I think the big thing for me is like the thing that maybe lacks in San Francisco a little bit is people are so focused on building that they don't ever take any time to just kind of like breathe. And I think one of the things that I want to do over here is just make it a little bit easier for people to have a space where they can chat offline. They can talk about some of the harder problems that no one seems to want to talk about in the Bay Area, and give them like a safe space where they can ask questions that they wouldn't normally ask.
Just top line, what are some of those harder problems?
honestly, it can be anything from like hiring, not having the like as in, and I don't mean hiring as like where do I find someone? It's like having this problem with this particular team member. What do I do about it? It can be something as simple as that, right the way through to like I'm having an existential crisis, and like I don't know whether this is the right company for me anymore, or frankly like I'm suffering from some like from depression or something like that, and it's basically making sure that you've got a community of people there that can be on hand just make sure that when I've run these in the past, like, and I'm not doing anything innovative. There's a whole bunch of communities doing this, but like the big thing for me is like, how do I make sure that everyone's sharing experience as opposed to advice? No one's allowed to just give you their opinion. It's very much, this is what I went through. This is how it helped me. This is what you could potentially do to help you as well. And yeah, I think the big thing for me is just making sure that when you have got some of those tougher questions, you've got a space that you can look to find that support.
How come the Valley doesn't have that community element in that capacity? Is it just because everyone's just heads down shipping?
I think that's a big part of it. I think like people are just moving so fast. There's definitely not that same level of, there is like within some communities, but I'd say overall, particularly within the younger founders, there isn't this reflection time that's happening just because people are trying to.
How important is that?
My opinion, like super important. I think like you can burn yourself into the ground hustling away, but if you don't take any time to reflect and kind of be creative, well, that's essentially what you're missing out on, is that creative time, that time to kind of reflect and work out whether you're doing the right thing, whether this is something you actually care deeply about, etc.
I spent some time at the London Founder House last Friday. Oh, it was great. I mean, it was one of the first times I've been amongst people that are just like heads down building and like exploring new ideas. And so I completely get the whole, you need a space just to chat. Like you can, sure, you can just riff on ideas together. You can pitch the product and like get people on board. But it's lovely the fact that you can like spend time with a group of people who are actively heads down as you are, of wanting to just commit themselves to something in a way that no one else would understand.
100%. I mean, I think that's one of the things that San Francisco has many of, are the like, are they hacker houses? Like, I guess they are, but like they have changed a lot. You've got the.
It's not like Silicon Valley, the TV show.
Yeah. Like AGI House here in Hillsborough is like a $68 million house with like 10 people living there down in like, yeah. And I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But, yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. It's not everyone sharing one bedroom. There are still some of those where everyone's sharing one bedroom, but I think that the one good thing that has changed is actually everyone hotboxing themselves in a room is no longer the smart thing to do, or people have appreciated that it's not necessarily the smart thing to do.
They've got a little bit of quality of life being implemented into building a company. Dude, I love it. Like, I want to talk about Blok a little bit more. When you were building the team out at the start and like bringing on investors, did you have like a thesis around who you wanted involved in the company?
I think like, yes. And I think this time around we were pretty particular in basically hiring our, like I say, like Avengers Assemble. It's basically going to all of the people that we've worked with in the past that have been like incredible supporters to us. So like one of our mentors, which was the ex-Unicorn founder, he was someone that I've always wanted to work with. And it just so happened that now was the right time. So initially came on as an advisor, then joined us full time. Has been incredible, like super supportive from that perspective. We've got like various other people that I worked with in the defense world who I knew I wanted to work with as well. Like basically I was looking for people that over the years, I've got this like black book that I've built of people that I would want to work with at some point. And I think I'm now at that stage where it's just like, let's just hire as many of those people as possible, as long as they fit the roles that we're looking for. Because like really for me, like if we execute this right, this is a $1 billion company, no question.
Incredible. And longer term, when we think about like that billion number of like a couple of years time, like let's hope it's a couple of years time, to be perfectly honest, that'd be incredible. But does the product evolve into something larger? Is it a foundational like model? Is it something else entirely?
Yeah, so I think like short term, it's how do we run better experiments? How do we like speed up the rate at which people are running product experiments? Medium term is becoming a co-pilot and basically suggesting potential experiments for you based on the essentially based on what we know about you as an organization.
Right.
But I think the longer term play is much more towards a play where it's adaptive user interfaces. So my version of Uber and your version of Uber being differentiated based on your intent, based on your motivation, based on how you've used the product in the past. And I think the thing that's going to power that is a foundational or highly like fine-tuned model that will allow us to really dig deep into predicting human behavior. I think the big problem with some of the foundational plays at the moment is when you look at compute using agents, they're very goal-oriented. They're trying to complete a task as quickly as possible because everyone thinks that's what agents want. That doesn't really work for us because we're trying to emulate human behavior as best as we can. And although we might like to think we're efficient, we're not very efficient at all. So the kind of like the approach for us is maybe we do need to build out a foundational play. And that foundational play allows us to build models that are more exploratory, that think a little bit more like a human from that perspective. But then at the same time, as we move towards this kind of multimodal UI side sort of thing, like what I could see happening, for example, is instead of having an onboarding flow, which is a form with a bunch of questions, it might be an agent that you're speaking to, either literally speaking to or via text. And that agent would want to be able to personalize their tone of voice or their copy based on how they were interfacing with a user. But they would also need to understand at which point the human is most happy so that that's the point that you want to try and convert them. That can't be done with anything except a foundational model or a highly fine-tuned model. So the thing that we're working out at the moment is, do we need to go all the way to building our own foundational model and pre-training it from scratch? Or can we begin to use kind of like a fine-tuned, like, can we take an off-the-shelf open model and fine-tune it ourselves? And that will come really down to kind of how adaptable that model is.
Do you have to then pivot the company into a lab at that point?
I don't know. Like, I think the way in which we're trying to build this is like a lot of the work that we're doing today sets us up for tomorrow. And I think most of our investors know that. So I think we've got a pretty big business just already now, even just looking at the short term. It easily gets to $100 million in annual recurring revenue. There's no question from that. But I think as we begin to move towards this world of multimodal UI and adaptive user interfaces, you have to naturally just begin to pivot towards this space, or kind of step towards this space. I wouldn't even say it's a pivot. So I think the whether we become a lab or not, I mean, yes, like to some degree, but like we're kind of a lab now. Like we're a bunch of research engineers and engineers that are building a product that is, you know, making revenue from day one. And I think that's the European me in me that's like, let's build a product that people actually want to pay for, as opposed to like spending the next 2-3 years building a foundational model that we don't know whether people want it or not. So I think like we're setting ourselves up for that future nicely.
I love it. When you say the European in me, what do you mean by that?
I think like just Europeans like focus, like it's harder to raise money. It's, you know, naturally you're a little bit more, well, you're not more
Just lock in.
yeah, you gotta make money from day one. Like, and I don't think that was always the case. I mean, it's definitely becoming the case here. Like the expectations to having revenue from day one is more similar to Europe now, but I can only imagine what the expectations are in Europe from venture at the moment.
We're looking forward to like actually speaking with some venture capitalists to try and get that value and like understand like on the ground, what do you want out of everything? Look, before you go, I've got to talk about the raise a little bit. Was it a difficult one or was it quite an easy breeze on this one?
It was actually pretty preemptive. So we'd raised some capital at the back end of last year, and then we had a few funds that missed and wanted to get in on it. So we decided to run it as a 2-week process and just say like, look, let's see where it lands after 2 weeks. Either we're going to have term sheets and we're going to want to move forwards, or we just go back to building. We don't need the cash right now. Ran the 2-week process. We had a few term sheets. We had one fund, Mac, who led the round, who we decided to move forwards with. Honestly, like I think they think differently to a lot of the venture firms we spoke to. Most people have never heard of them here in the Valley. Like that's changing, but like most people haven't heard of them. But when we reference checked them with founders that have taken capital from them, we did it with 9 founders. Every single founder came back and said, I would take their money again in a heartbeat. So
oh, really?
that's obviously a thing we were optimizing for. And so far, like working with Marlon has been great. Like he's super supportive. He does his best to kind of make sure that, yeah, we're growing as a company and he's supporting us in the right way. And then alongside them, we brought in some more incredible angels. Kind of, you know, we were good at bringing angels in for our pre-seed round, but we brought some more incredible angels in from top product and engineering companies, you know, Slack / Salesforce, Meta, you name it, a whole bunch of people.
You stack the deck.
Yeah, we've got an early employee from Instagram, which has been great. So yeah, I think like, and then, you know, we had Common Ventures and Correlation Ventures who joined the round as well. So all in all, like a pretty streamlined process. We ran it over 2 weeks. Probably took like 3 weeks in total, but yeah, it was pretty quick.
Tom, this has been amazing. I'm looking forward to you hitting 100 million and we can do this again. But I'm sure we'll get you on before that because there is so much science behind what you're building. I have so many questions that I can't fit into a 20-minute segment. Dude, go change the world, right? I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
No, 100%. Appreciate it.